This satellite view of Tyre shows a thick land bridge that shouldn't be here. 2,500 years ago, that landmass was open ocean, and Tyre was an isolated island. It's attached today because a 23-year-old Macedonian king refused to take no for an answer. In 332 BC, Alexander the Great marches down the Mediterranean coast, capturing Persian naval bases. But at Tyre, his momentum halts. The city sits on an island 800 meters off the coast, surrounded by 150-foot walls and a formidable fleet. Alexander commands a highly disciplined army of infantry and cavalry. What he does not have is a navy. Taking a fortified island without ships is a tactical impossibility. Seeking a peaceful surrender, Alexander requests entry to the city so he can make a religious sacrifice at their main temple. The Tyrians, wishing to stay neutral, offer a polite refusal. They tell him he can sacrifice at the older temple on the mainland instead. Alexander does not tolerate rejection. He decides that if he cannot cross the water to reach the city, he will make the water disappear. He orders his army to build a land bridge right through the ocean. What starts as a bruised ego triggers a 7-month siege that breaks the laws of geography. It forces thousands of soldiers into a terrifying cycle of engineering warfare, and ends with one of the most brutal massacres of the ancient world. The plan is to construct a mole, a massive causeway of timber and stone stretching to the island. At first, work goes quickly, but in deeper water, they enter range of the city's defenses, where Tyrian soldiers and ships rain down arrows and rocks. To protect his men, Alexander builds 2 massive, hide-covered towers at the end of the mole. The Tyrians respond with a physics-based counterattack. They pack an old horse transport ship with dry brush, sulfur, and pitch. They hang cauldrons of oil from the masts and heavily weigh down the rear. This deliberate imbalance forces the bow to pitch upward, allowing it to easily clear Alexander's defensive barricades. Waiting for a favorable wind, they tow the ship out and ram it onto the mole. The crew sets the cargo ablaze and swims away. As the masts burn and collapse, the hanging cauldrons smash, igniting the pitch and reducing Alexander's siege towers to ash. Watching his expensive siege engines burn, Alexander refuses to retreat. Instead, he orders his men to dump entire trees into the water and rebuild the causeway even wider. The burning of the towers proves a harsh reality. Brute force engineering is useless as long as the Tyrians control the sea. To finish the bridge, Alexander needs a fleet. Leaving the construction site, Alexander travels to neighboring cities he had already subdued. By leveraging political pressure and granting amnesty to former enemies, he absorbs the navies of Cyprus and Sidon, returning with over 200 triremes. Outnumbered, the Tyrian navy retreats. Alexander immediately splits his new armada, parking ships outside Tyre's northern and southern harbors, completely boxing the defenders inside. With the water secured, the Macedonians mount heavy siege rams onto their ships. They sail in close to the walls, drop their anchors, and begin hammering away at the stone defenses. The Tyrians adapt immediately. They deploy elite underwater divers, swimming down to sever the thick anchor ropes holding the Macedonian ships in place. Without tension to hold them steady against the ocean currents and the recoil of the battering rams, the attacking ships lose their leverage and drift helplessly away from the walls. Alexander counters by replacing the ropes with thick iron chains. The divers are rendered useless, and the battering rams resume their work. Desperate to keep the attackers off their walls, the Tyrians resort to pure psychological terror. They heat coarse sand in shallow copper pans until it glows red-hot. Then they launch it over the battlements. The fine, burning grains slip through the Macedonian armor, searing their skin. By the 7th month, the siege has devolved from a tactical standoff into a brutal cycle of mutual torture, pushing both armies to the brink of absolute madness. The breaking point finally arrives in August. Alexander's ship-mounted rams discover a weak point in the southern wall, systematically hammering a narrow breach through the stone. He orders 2 ships carrying wooden gangways to pull up directly to the gap. Leading from the front, Alexander charges across the makeshift bridge and forces his way inside the impregnable city. Once the walls fall, the disciplined Macedonian army snaps. Exhausted and enraged by the agonizing 7-month standoff, they tear through the streets, slaughtering 8,000 Tyrian defenders in a matter of hours. the civilian population faces an equally grim fate. 30,000 women, children, and non-combatants are rounded up and sold into slavery. Alexander's grudge is still not satisfied. To send a message to any other city considering resistance, he marches 2,000 surviving soldiers to the beach and crucifies them along the shoreline. When Alexander marches his army away, he leaves behind the massive stone bridge. Over the centuries, ocean currents run into this artificial barrier, causing silt and sand to accumulate. Slowly, the ocean is filled in, permanently fusing the island to the mainland. Alexander defeated an army, and he erased an island from the map. If you look closely at the ruins of Tyre today, you are standing on the physical scars of a siege that proves human obsession is a terrifying force of nature.